We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of attempted charge in the indictment.
What provokes a 14-year-old to dispatch a message mere moments after extinguishing the life of her own mother? This is no crafted tale, no cinematic illusion. It unfolded within the hushed walls of a Mississippi dwelling, where a single reckless impulse ruptured a family's world beyond repair. Was the catalyst fractured mental health, frigid deliberation, or a youthful psyche cloaked in shadows no one dared to imagine? Brace yourself, because the account ahead will unsettle your assumptions about adolescence, wrongdoing, and the abyss between intent and consequence. She was scarcely in her mid-teens when she summoned a friend to her home. That companion, unsuspecting and unguarded, walked blindly into an instant destined to fracture multiple futures. What transpired within that modest residence perplexed even veteran investigators, leaving them speechless in its wake. And all of it spiraled from one adolescent, one heated clash, and one irrevocable choice. Carly Gregg, now a name murmured in courtrooms, printed across news cycles, and whispered in quiet corners of Brandon, Mississippi. Outwardly, she mirrored the facade of an ordinary teenager, attending school, maintaining solitude, and residing with her mother, Ashley Smiley, admired mathematics educator, and her stepfather, Heath. Yet beneath that calm veneer pulsed an undercurrent of discord few recognized in time. On March 19, 2024, amid a quarrel believed to stem from substance-related concerns, Carly transgressed a threshold no one fathomed she would cross. But it wasn't merely the act itself that left the community reeling. It was the eerie precision, the unsettling composure, and the chilling aftermath that rendered even seasoned authorities at a loss for words.
Home surveillance cameras caught the moment Carly Gregg, her mother, to...
After the clash had settled into a strange stillness, Carly did not succumb to hysteria or flee into the night. Rather, she summoned a confidant with a message that would later echo with grim notoriety. Upon crossing the threshold, the friend was ushered into a tableau so searing it etched itself into memory with the permanence of a scar. With a composure bordering on frost, Carly articulated the grim truth of what had transpired within those walls. Only then did she dispatch a terse summons to her stepdad, urging his swift return. The moment he stepped inside, the atmosphere tightened, brimming with the possibility of catastrophe. Yet instead of spiraling into chaos, he seized the reins of the moment, steadied the turmoil, and reached out for aid before the situation could deteriorate further.
Gun went off in my face before the door was, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches wide open.
Smiley wrestling the gun away, making this frantic call to 911.
She tried to shoot me. Hey, I need some gloves. Grazed, but he's 10-2. It went through his shirt. You got me right there. Magnolia Place, they gave the side of injury. She went over the side back towards my vehicle. She might have looked around this way. Might have looked back, going back towards the pond right there.
The lingering question, the one that shadowed every whispered conversation, was this: what truly propelled Carly toward such a precipice? Was it merely adolescent defiance spiraling into calamity, or a far more subterranean turmoil churning beneath the surface? Inside the courtroom, two narratives clashed like opposing tempests. Her defense painted a portrait of a young woman ensnared in profound psychological unrest, visions that fractured her perception, emotional convulsions that left her unmoored, and episodes where reality thinned until it nearly dissolved around her. Prosecutors, however, sketched an entirely different panorama. In their telling, Carly was not drifting helplessly through mental fog. She was lucid, deliberate, fully cognizant of every action she took.
She doesn't know what was going on at that time. We're asking you to find her not guilty by reason of insanity.
I put 3 in my mom, and I got 3 more waiting for my stepdad. You think that sounds like an insane person?
They unveiled a lattice of messages, surveillance fragments, and testimonies that stitched together an unsettling portrait, one marked not by chaos, but by intention. Each piece of evidence, like a cold shard of glass, reflected a scenario shaped with precision rather than frenzy.
Your daughter tried to shoot you? Yeah. Where's she at? Carly? Yes, sir. All right, mister, what's your phone number you calling me from? Did she hit you? Yeah, I got hit in the neck a little bit. Okay, so did it graze your neck? Yes, sir. All right, and what's her name? Carly Gregg. Carly Gregg? Does she still have a gun on her? I took it from her. She ran. You took it from her and she ran? Yes, sir.
Ultimately, the jury aligned themselves with the stark weight of the evidence laid before them. Their verdict declared Carly entirely accountable, leaving no room for ambiguity. Now she endures one of the most severe sentences permitted for someone of her young years, a consequence as uncompromising as the case that led her there.
As to count one, we, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Beginning on the first row, ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? You gotta answer out loud, ma'am, I'm sorry. On the back row, sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? That verdict is proper and unanimous. As to count two, we, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Beginning on the first row, ma'am, is that your verdict? Yes. Sir, is that your verdict? Yes, sir. Ma'am, is that your verdict? Yes. Sir, is that your verdict? Yes. Ma'am, is that your verdict? Yes. On the back row, sir, is that your verdict? Yes, ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? As to count three, we, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment. Beginning on the first row, ma'am, is that your verdict? Yes. Sir, is that your verdict? Yes, ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Yes, ma'am, is that your verdict? On the back row, sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? All right. All three verdicts appear to be unanimous. The court will enroll the verdict. Your sentences will be as follows. As to count one, the jury having fixed the verdict at life imprisonment, this court will sentence you to life imprisonment. As to count two, you'll be sentenced to life imprisonment. As to count three, you'll be sentenced to 10 years to serve. All right. Court will be in recess.
Your Honor, clarification, I apologize. On the
Sentences will run concurrent.
Since that verdict, the case has ignited sprawling debates that refuse to settle. How do we weigh responsibility against empathy when it comes to young people in crisis? Should adolescents be thrust into the realm of adult consequences when their actions veer into catastrophic territory? And perhaps the question that echoes the loudest was this avoidable from the start? Many now wonder whether subtle distress signals went unnoticed by the adults in Carly's orbit. Could vigilant guidance from counselors, teachers, or mental health professionals have altered her trajectory? These conversations have broadened into a wider reckoning about how society responds to troubled youth. Does age warrant a protective shield, or do certain actions tear that shield away entirely? What is undeniable is the pause this story has forced across households, classrooms, and entire communities. It has made people ask themselves, how deeply do we truly understand the young minds around us? Can a teenager project an image of normalcy while quietly constructing something that could upend lives? And more crucially, what steps can we take collectively and individually to prevent a tragedy like this from ever taking root again? As Carly remains in a youth facility, suspended between her past and whatever future awaits her, one truth lingers. This narrative has not reached its final chapter. The motivations behind her choice still cast long shadows. Was she propelled by silent, festering anguish, or by something more obscure and unsettling? Share your reflections below. And if you're drawn to real-world stories that peel back the surface of headline events to reveal their hidden contours, tap the next video waiting for you. She entered the courtroom with a fragile gait, folded into her seat, and within moments dissolved into raw, unrestrained sobs. Yet beneath those trembling tears lay a narrative far more sinister than her trembling facade suggested. She had woven a false tale against her own husband after enlisting her firearms trainer to eliminate Haman's ill-fated scheme that collapsed before it ever reached its intended end. Though she clung to claims of innocence, everything unraveled the moment he stepped forward to testify. In that instant, Diana Lovejoy's carefully assembled world collapsed like brittle glass. In 2005, Diana and Gregg Mulvihill first crossed paths in Southern California, their lives entwined, leading to marriage, a shared home, and, in 2012, the arrival of their son, the bright nucleus around which their family revolved. But the dream they built together slowly curdled. Disputes over parenting philosophies, simmering tensions regarding money and health, and quiet suspicions whispered in the shadows began eroding what once seemed solid. Those who knew Diana said she changed once warm and buoyant. She grew taut with anxiety, mistrust, and rigidity. She insisted Gregg was perilous, unpredictable, someone to be feared. By 2014, their marriage had deteriorated beyond repair. What should have been a straightforward separation spiraled into a full-scale conflict. Court filings multiplied, each hearing sharpening the animosity between them. Amid the turbulence, Diana encountered someone new: Weldon, MCC David Jr., a former Marine and weapons instructor. He was composed, authoritative, and unwavering qualities she felt her unraveling life desperately lacked. Their bond strengthened swiftly, but according to investigators, so did the storm inside her. And that storm would soon take shape as a plan with catastrophic consequences. On September 1st, 2016, Gregg received a cryptic late-night phone call. The caller claimed to possess evidence that could shift the trajectory of the custody battle. He was told to meet on a secluded dirt path in Carlsbad. Desperate for vindication, Gregg agreed and brought a friend for protection. But hidden along that shadowed trail was a rifle pointed toward him. One shot exploded through the darkness. Gregg fell but survived, and with that single bullet, Diana's downfall began. Detectives began tracing the digital and physical breadcrumbs left behind. Phone logs, text strings, surveillance glimpses, and purchase records converged. The disposable phone used that night, obtained by Diana. The gunman, her instructor, Weldon McDavid. Bit by bit, investigators constructed the mosaic, and every fragment illuminated her involvement. When confronted, Diana remained unnervingly composed, almost genteel. She denied any knowledge of a plot. She insisted she sought only safety for herself and her child. She said she couldn't recall crucial details of the night. She declared she would never steal her son from his father. But prosecutors rejected her narrative outright. They contended that the plan was calculated, collaborative, and anything but accidental. They argued that Lovejoy, terrified of losing parental authority and legal leverage, had urged MAC David to resolve her conflict in a single, irrevocable strike. The defense countered with a claim of confusion, a tangled miscommunication between two people whose stories diverged at every turn. To them, the incident was not self-defense, but an attempt at dominance. Diana wasn't frightened, they said. She was orchestrating. Thus, a story that began as a portrait of devotion and family had mutated into a labyrinth of deception, manipulation, and obsession. Yet nothing prepared the courtroom for Diana Lovejoy's performance. Once the trial commenced, she entered gently, displayed her grief openly, and pleaded forgetfulness. But the moment Gregg Mulvihill, once the man she promised to cherish, faced her from the witness stand, her tears could no longer veil the stark, unyielding truth.
So after I shined the light on it and I stopped for a second to look at it, and it took a few seconds to register what I was looking at, and about the time I realized what I was looking at, it felt like I had been hit in the back, which was confusing to me because I knew I was looking at a gun, but it felt like someone hit me in the back. And the next thing I remember was starting to run.
When you ran, were you running as fast as you can?
Yes.
Were you and Jason running side by side, or were you? Do you know where he was?
I could see Jason, and he was probably 30 or so feet ahead of me, heading back towards the car. And while we were running, I heard about 6 more rapid gunshots.
He testified that Diana had been on the brink of paying him $120,000 as part of their divorce settlement, and with that looming financial blow, her first calculated maneuver to evade the payout was to level grave accusations against Gregg. Mulvihill claims that he had harmed her and their child. She petitioned the court for a restraining order, insisting she feared for her safety and for her son's life. But when investigators, psychologists, and child welfare experts examined every detail, they found nothing, no trace of the horrors she described. The allegations evaporated under scrutiny, and their dismissal only intensified the venom already festering between them. Gregg told the court he believed Diana had engineered that late-night rendezvous with one purpose: to lure him into a trap from which he was never meant to return. His testimony struck the room like a hammer, and once the prosecutors aligned it with the mountain of evidence, records, movements, messages, the jury required no dramatic finale. The picture was complete. Both Diana Lovejoy and Weldon McDavid were deemed culpable for devising and executing the ambush, and when the verdict rippled through the courtroom, Diana Lovejoy crumpled to the floor, her composure shattering as the weight of her choices finally bore down upon her.
Verdict. We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Diana Jean Lovejoy, guilty of the crime of attempted murder of Gregg Mulvihill in violation of Penal Code Section 664/187, paren A, paren 1, as charged on count 2. Verdict. We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Weldon K. McDavid, guilty of the crime of conspiracy to commit murder.
Hang on. All right, we're going to need to take a break. And if we could have, the jury go back into the room. Okay, folks. Okay, at this point, we need to clear out the courtroom. Let's go.
The courtroom erupted in astonishment as deputies lunged toward her and emergency staff rushed through the doors. She was carried out for medical evaluation, and the footage of that moment spread across the nation in a matter of hours. For some observers, her collapse felt like the inevitable breaking point, the precise moment when every fabrication, every denial, and every carefully buried dread crashed down upon her shoulders. But many others remained unmoved. They interpreted the collapse not as shock, but as strategy, another calculated display, the final performance of a woman who had long mastered the art of bending perceptions and swaying those around her.
I would never be able to do that. It's so painful that some people in this world seem to think that I would have it in me to do this.
I thought of my son growing up without a father. My father was killed. My father was killed when I was 24, and I still haven't gotten over that. I would not take a father from a child.
In January of 2018, the final chapter of her trial was sealed. Diana Lovejoy was handed a sentence of 26 years to life, while Weldon McDavid received an even harsher fate, 50 years to life. The judge emphasized the gravity of her deceit, enticing her former husband into danger, twisting his trust, and donning the mask of a frightened victim while orchestrating a calculated ambush behind the scenes. No amount of trembling hands, streaked mascara, or courtroom tears could scrub away the mountain of evidence. Gregg Mulvihill, the man whose life she attempted to erase, was left to piece together a future and raise his son on his own. The case quickly became a chilling illustration of how festering resentment, fear, and emotional chaos can drive someone into choices that obliterate everything in their orbit. But it also raised uneasy questions. How many tears in a courtroom are genuine? How many are weapons designed, rehearsed, deployed? And what do we make of a person who weeps while simultaneously being the engineer of the very violence they claim to interfere. For the legal world, her conviction delivered a stark reminder: manipulation, scheming, and betrayal cannot be disguised by trembling voices or dramatic collapses. The justice system saw through the theatrics. Diana Lovejoy wept. She slandered her husband. She played the wounded innocent. She pleaded for leniency. But the moment Gregg delivered his testimony, and especially when she collapsed after her fate was announced, the facade finally fractured. What remained was the unvarnished truth of her actions. So here's the question lingering today: was Diana Lovejoy a genuinely shattered woman when she fainted? Or was it the last desperate scene in a story she could no longer control? Share your thoughts below. And if this deep dive resonated with you, tap the like button, subscribe for more riveting courtroom unravelings, and hit the bell so you never miss a new episode from Mr. Owl. Inside the courtroom, she carried herself with a chilling ease. A faint smile curled at her lips, a smug little smirk flickered toward the cameras, and she feigned confusion as though detached from the gravity of the moment. All the while, the victim's parents stood before the judge, voices trembling, hearts splintered, pleading for justice, pleading for someone to finally hold her to account.
Do whatever you can to keep this monster behind bars.
She stepped out of the thrift store, gripping the knife, her eyes sweeping the area with calculated intention. When she caught sight of the mother and her child, she drifted behind them into the parking lot, silent, deliberate, and then she moved. Afterward, she attempted to cloak her actions beneath an act of confusion, pretending she had no grasp of what she'd done. But the illusion shattered the moment prosecutors unveiled the surveillance footage. Every haunting frame, every deliberate step, every second of that night flickered across the screen. The smirks faded, the excuses died. She offered an apology, but by then, the damage was irrevocable. It was far, far too late.
I just want to say I apologize. I'm really sorry for what happened.
This is the chronicle of Bianca Ellis, the young woman who tried to feign ignorance in a courtroom, hoping naivete would shield her from accountability, until the cold, unblinking eye of video evidence stripped the facade away. June 3rd, 2024, Homestead, Ohio. A day that began with ordinary rhythms: grocery carts rattling, family shopping, cashiers calling out totals, held something far more sinister just beyond the sliding doors. No one wandering the aisles of the giant Eagle supermarket sensed the storm quietly brewing outside. 22-year-old Bianca Ellis had just stepped out of a nearby thrift shop, a stolen knife concealed in her grasp. Yet the theft itself was not the horror that would jolt the community to its core. What followed was surveillance footage later revealed her drifting through the grocery store, the blade visible in her hand as she wandered with eerie composure. Minutes later, she noticed a woman exiting with her 3-year-old son. Julian Wood Ellis shadowed them, silent as a passing breeze, trailing them into the parking lot. Then suddenly, brutally, the calm shattered. The mother's cries tore through the air, but the moment had already tipped into catastrophe. The damage inflicted could not be undone.
Get that off. Good. Good. All right. Is there a halo tester on it? Okay. Is there anything else on the face? All right. Maybe Shaman naked. Let me know when you're ready. Ready? Let me know when you're ready. Let's get him on the car. Okay, let me know when you're ready. Here we go. All right. You ready?
Julian was rushed to the nearest hospital with desperate urgency, but the fight for his life slipped away before it ever had a chance to begin. Moments later, officers found Ellis strolling calmly toward the roadway, the knife still clutched in her hand, its blade stained, its story undeniable. She offered no struggle, no apology, not even a flicker of emotion. Her arrest took only minutes, but the aftermath, a tidal wave of shock, grief, and furious bewilderment, washed over the community with ferocity. Investigators reconstructed the chain of events piece by piece. Surveillance angles from both stores, shaken witness accounts, and Ellis's own unmistakable movements frozen on video. Prosecutors called the attack intentional, precise, and wholly unprovoked. They leveled a barrage of charges against her: aggravated homicide, attempted homicide, felonious assault, child endangerment, and theft. But her defense was preparing a very different story.
Miss Ellis. Miss Ellis.
Yeah.
Please raise your head.
Where is it coming from?
I just need to ask you a few questions. I need to make sure you understand them. Ma'am, Miss Ellis.
When Bianca Ellis stepped into the courtroom to confront the mountain of charges against her, she behaved as though she were drifting through someone else's reality. Her expression was soft, almost airy, a faint smile tugging at her lips. At times she even smirked toward the cameras trained on her, as if the gravity of the moment simply refused to register. Meanwhile, the father of the 3-year-old boy stood before the judge, his voice strained and trembling. He begged with the desperation of a shattered parent to deliver justice. He pleaded for a sentence that would ensure Ellis would never set foot outside a prison wall again.
I really wish no bail, period. Or extend it to the max limit possible that you can, at the very least. Just do whatever you can to keep this monster behind bars.
Thank you, sir. Is there anything else you would like to say?
That'll be it. Thank you, Your Honor.
Moments later, the judge set Ellis's bond at $5 million, effectively ensuring she would remain behind bars as the case moved forward. Her attorneys argued that she struggled with severe mental illness, that she suffered from schizophrenia and had not been taking her prescribed medication. But the evidence told another story. The surveillance footage, the knife in her hand, the way she stalked her victims, and her calm, almost casual demeanor during the arrest all pointed to a chilling level of control. In September 2024, the court paused the criminal proceedings to determine whether Ellis was competent to stand trial. After several months in a state facility, doctors concluded she fully understood the charges and was capable of assisting in her own defense. With that determination, the stage was set for one of the most disturbing trials the state had seen in years. As the trial approached, the defense prepared an insanity plea. The prosecution, however, focused on intent and on a haunting piece of video evidence they believed would dismantle any suggestion of confusion or diminished awareness. When Ellis entered the courtroom, many expected a woman consumed by guilt or fragile from the weight of what she had done. Instead, they were met with something far stranger. At times, she appeared utterly disconnected, as though the proceedings had nothing to do with her. At other moments, she seemed to feign ignorance, pausing awkwardly, shrugging at serious questions, pretending not to understand even the most basic inquiries. Family members of the victims watched from only a few feet away, their quiet sobs filling the room. But everything changed when the prosecution played the surveillance video. The footage revealed it all: her walking through the thrift store, her movements slow and deliberate, her eyes fixed on the victim she would soon attack. Every step was precise, every action intentional. When the video ended, a deep, unsettling silence settled over the courtroom. On October 15, 2025, after hours of tense deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict: guilty.
This jury says that they duly find and impaneled as sworn jurors in this case do find the defendant, Bianca Ellis, guilty of all charges. Juror number 1, is this your decision? Yes. Juror number 2? Yes. Juror number 3? Yes. Juror number 4? Juror number 5? Yes. Juror number 6? Yes. Juror number 7? Juror number 8? Juror number 9? Juror number 10? Juror number 11? And juror number 12. All right, thank you.
The jury believed the act was intentional, and so did the judge. On the day of sentencing, the courtroom was packed, every bench filled, every corner occupied by people who had followed the case from the beginning. Reporters lined the back wall, their cameras trained on the defendant as she sat motionless at the defense table. Before the sentence was handed down, the victim's parents were given the chance to speak. They stood together, trembling as they faced the woman who had taken their child from them. The mother's voice cracked as she described the emptiness left behind, the sleepless nights, the terror she felt every time she closed her eyes and imagined her son's final moments. The father, struggling to remain composed, begged the judge to ensure Ellis would never walk free again. He said the memory of their son's last minutes would haunt them for the rest of their lives, and that true justice could only be served if Ellis spent hers behind bars.
Russo, I ask you to do what's best for my family and the community, so she has no opportunity to commit these heinous crimes again. I'm asking you to give her the maximum sentence possible, life without parole.
I hate you with every fiber of my being. You don't deserve a second chance. You don't deserve mercy. You didn't give my son any. You belong in prison where there is no chance of you getting out. The jury got it right. Judge Russo, I urge you to give her the maximum penalty without parole, so she has no chance of hurting another innocent soul like my sweet baby boy Julian.
Ellis's expression shifted instantly. The smirk vanished, replaced by an overdue apology, but by then, it didn't matter.
I just want to say I apologize. I'm really sorry.
Okay.
Judge John Russo sentenced Ellis to life in prison with no chance of parole. He noted her mental health issues, but made it clear that the footage demonstrated awareness, intent, and deliberate planning.
Miss Ellis, as noted, the jury of your peers has spoken. They have found that although we all have agreed that you suffer from schizophrenia, that you did understand the nature and wrongfulness of your actions as handed down in all of the guilty verdicts by this jury. The court's going to hand down a sentence of life without parole. I'll run every other sentence concurrent to life without parole.
The Wood family held one another tightly, tears running down their cheeks, a moment of closure, though far from peace. Behind bars, Ellis is reportedly quiet and withdrawn, a stark contrast to the smirking figure the world saw in court. Her attorneys continue pointing to her mental health, but for many, the case stands as a disturbing reminder of how one person's decisions can shatter an entire family's life. For the Woods, each day is a painful echo of what was taken: a life, a child, and a sense of safety that can never be restored. Was Bianca Ellis genuinely struggling, or was she calculating, fully conscious of every action she took? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you want more true crime breakdowns, tap the next video on your screen and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching.